How is young adult literature beneficial in a classroom setting? There are many people who are opposed to this idea. However, there are also many scholars who have done research to prove why teachers should include young adult literature in their classrooms. The first and simplest point that most people realize is that most students prefer to read books by relevant authors rather than a big textbook full of facts that they have to shove into their brains. It is very common for a student to take less interest in a learning unit until their teacher assigns a chapter or two to read in their textbooks. However, if the class as a whole is reading the same young adult literature book, whether it is independently or as a class, students will have more of an interest in the topic. There are scholars who simply tell teachers, please use contemporary young adult literature books in your classroom because dead authors don't have mortgages. This means that students cannot learn from authors who are past simply because they cannot relate to them. Students need to feel a connection with the things that they are reading in order to soak in the knowledge. Young adult literature motivates students to have a desire to learn the things that they are required to learn by being able to relate to what they are reading. Allowing students to read the things that they are interested in, they will be in the classroom and wanting to learn things more in their curriculum. As students become more interested in the curriculum that they are required to learn, they will have a deeper desire to engage in discussions and have conversations about these books, whether it's with the whole classroom or with their teacher. Marshall A. George has studied and found that students perform better in the classrooms that did go beyond the classics to include young adult literature, and he urged teachers to broaden their curriculum to include young adult literature. Students will want to read more and learn more about their material and may even seek out young adult literature outside of the classroom. By simply having young adult literature books available in classrooms, helps students find books that speaks to them, and when they encounter those books, students are much more likely to look for another one. Giving students the motivation to love reading in the classroom will only encourage them to want to read more outside of the classroom. Scholars even state that there is no better way to get teens fired up than to give them the chance to read about and discuss the world in which they live. This genre allows students to retain information easier and help their mental development. Using this genre in the classroom can also teach students much more than their teachers are trying to put into their brains. The classroom setting should not be teachers trying to fill their students' minds with the required information, but rather the students and their teacher together using books, other authentic resources, and their own opinions and experiences to create the living curriculum as a true community of learners. This is healthy for students mentally because this does not cause them to have mental breakdowns or panic attacks, because if a student genuinely enjoys what they are reading, then their stress levels will naturally just be down. To put it simply, young adult literature should be in a classroom because a good young adult literature book can introduce students to parts of themselves that they did not know existed. Not only does it keep their mental health up by keeping students happy, but it can actually help students discover other parts of their minds. Not only does it keep their mental health up by keeping them happy by relating to things that they're reading, it can help students discover parts of their minds that they didn't know existed. This world's full of different struggles, and I think a lot of students just need something to relate to or just an outlet to escape what they're going through. It can help them know that they're not alone through their struggles by being able to relate to what is going on in the book. Young adult literature also gives teachers the opportunity to touch the hearts of their students and form actual relationships with them. Along with students participating in class discussions or talking to their teachers about the books that they're reading in class, this can and has sparked relationships between students and teachers outside of the learning setting. This gives teachers the opportunity to actually learn about the students' personal lives without having to push or pry too harshly. All teachers and most scholars agree that literacy is something that students should see as a valuable skill for life, not just for English class. This is taught to them by their teachers, which will give them a greater appreciation for their teachers through young adult literature. Young adult literature can be used to help students connect with and better understand what they are learning in class, as well as their classroom environment and people in it. Novels of this genre can also be used to challenge students to look at the impact, both positive and negative, that their actions have on others. This genre is beneficial in more ways than just to help students learn the curriculum. It can help them explore themselves, their peers, and the world around them. Young adult literature not only provides students with the opportunity to read something they enjoy, but the texts also grant them the chance to learn something about themselves and their world. Overall, young adult literature should be in the classroom setting because it would benefit most, if not all, students. Students would be more willing to learn with this teaching style than they would any other standard teaching style, for example, a textbook. They would soak in the teachings because they would relate more to what they are reading. If students are more familiar with the young adult literature books that their teacher assigned them to read, then they would probably be even more willing to read the book because they're familiar with other books by that author. Students might even want to talk about the book in private discussions with other classmates or their teacher, which builds relationships throughout peers or their teacher-student relationship. This also motivates students to look for young adult literature books outside of the classroom setting, which increases the chances of students reading on their own or for pleasure. Young adult literature also improves mental development by helping students realize things about themselves that they had never realized before and helping them become more passionate about things that they might not have been without the exposure to young adult literature books. Young adult literature is overall beneficial in the classroom setting.